now in this rage-filled, psychotic effort to smear Donald Trump or anybody that likes Donald Trump, well, look at what they have done. They have given him a gift for re-election. In my view, this is all going to be the same impact as the Russia witch hunt. Democrats to launch an impeachment meeting at 4. And Nancy Pelosi is telling the world they are ready. Okay, what for? What are they impeaching him for? Okay, sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe 30330. Okay, well, he's calling for impeachment. Of course he wants to impeach because he doesn't want the focus where this is now inevitably going. The focus is going to be on him. It's going to be on the abuse of power. It's going to be on his $1 billion of tax money that he leveraged to get the prosecutor fired that was investigating his son and his son's relationship to this questionable Ukrainian gas and oil company, especially because the kid had no background or experience in any of this. They have now done everybody that is a conservative a huge favor. The next thing that they did, too, is they've now shown that this is the real deal psychosis. Because what they don't know about this is more than they do know about this. And it just shows how they're just trigger happy. You know, what was last week about? Well, you know, we're going to bring back Corey Lewandowski. We'll find a way to impeach him. We got to find the reason to impeach him. And if you ask Nadler or Schiff in the weeks leading up to this week why they were going to attempt to impeach President Trump, they didn't have an answer. They were in search of a predetermined conclusion. All they know is they want to impeach him because they don't like him. And because they don't like him and they didn't get what they wanted from Mueller, they'll say anything that they can to make it happen. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Every American needs to think about this, too. How does any of these shenanigans help any American in any way, shape, manner, or form? I mean, do they ever care about, Donald Trump's created 7 million jobs and we're going on now 7 million Americans off of food stamps, and we now have record low unemployment, the best employment scenario in this country since 1969. I am aging myself. I was 8 years old. The Mets won the World Series, the New York Mets. I can tell you the entire lineup of the New York Mets team. Ray Sadecki, Jerry Kuzman, Tom Seaver, Tug McGraw in the bullpen. I mean, one of the greatest teams ever. And I can go on with the rest. I've done it before. So what they've unintentionally done here is they have now stumbled onto a story that we have exposed numerous times on radio and TV, and what are the very credible claims of real corruption at the highest levels, a pay-to-play scheme surrounding, that would be sleepy, creepy, crazy Joe 30330. And, you know, I want to go through it all slowly because it also goes beyond that. And when you lay it out step by step, even the media mob, if they tried, they might be able to follow the bouncing ball and where the facts lead us in this case. Because, all right, last week we get a report surfacing, an unnamed whistleblower accusing President Trump of making an illicit, unknown promise to Ukraine's president during a recent phone call. And it sounded like, well, what did the president say? What did the president offer? What did the president say he'd give them? Well, every source we have that has been able to confirm says there is no quid pro quo. And then the media, they hype it up the second that story breaks because they needed something to cling on to because they had nothing left with Russia. Impeach, impeach, impeach. Stormy, stormy, stormy. You know, whatever, and every other narrative that they've used. So the reports surface about the whistleblower. Then they breathlessly go on for days, and we find out, oh, the initial reporting is wrong. That what happened is, again, after we watched the predictable obsessive compulsive level of hysteria, because everything else they've thrown at Donald Trump has not worked out, then we find out, oh, it was not firsthand information. This was secondhand information. Oh, it wasn't a real whistleblower. So somebody told the whistleblower that's whistleblowing that something had happened. That is called hearsay. That is not admissible in a court of law. That is not evidence. That is not a whistleblower by definition by the federal government. But yet they went with it as if it was. And they claim that the president wanted Ukraine to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. Now, what the media forgot is all during the Russia collusion narrative, they were all jacked up on finding out whether or not Russia had in fact tried to influence in the 2016 elections. Okay, well, there was no there. We now have the FBI 9-month investigation. We had the Senate bipartisan committee investigation. We had the House Intel Committee investigation, culminating with the grand crescendo known as the Mueller report. Yeah, no evidence of collusion, no obstruction. So, and they were shocked. They didn't know how to take it. So let's cling to the next conspiracy. We're not going to learn from our mistakes. We're not going to examine our consciences, and we're not going to admit, certainly, to the American people that we've lied to them, that we've perpetrated conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory. We're not going to acknowledge our failures, and we're not going to retract the false stories that we kept pushing on the American people. Why would they do that? They're just going to double down and move to the next issue without any facts, without any information. The whistleblower was never heard the so-called call-in question. It was never firsthand information by a real whistleblower. The allegations from the get-go were hearsay. Even fake news CNN reported over the weekend, quote, the whistleblower didn't have direct knowledge of the communications. Whoopsie daisy, more bad reporting. And meanwhile, you have the the new president, the foreign minister. They have come out and denied completely that President Trump put any pressure on the Ukrainian government or the Ukrainian president. Even the Washington Post said there was no explicit quid pro quo. So what is the impeachment meeting by the Democrats at 4 o'clock today and about 45 minutes from right now supposed to be about? I guess we'll find out either during this show or sometime thereafter. But I got to tell you, it is clear that this 4-day media hysteria, meltdown, advancing more lies and conspiracy theories, rushing to judgment, no due process ever, especially if it's all things Trump, and more selective, phony moral outrage. Because if they cared about Russian interference, they would have cared about Hillary's dirty Russian dossier. Even the New York Times acknowledging that was likely Russian disinformation from the get-go. They would care about that. If they had cared about obstruction, they would have cared about Hillary and the deleted emails and the bleach bit and the hammers. If they cared about, Me Too and I believe, they would probably be saying the same thing about the lieutenant governor in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But it's, again, if you can't bludgeon Trump, they're not interested. Remember, John Solomon even said the Ukrainian government was dying to give us information about how they tried to help Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election and impact our elections. Well, I thought they cared about interference like this. Well, they don't. This is pure political hype. And I got to tell you, I've got to believe after the letdown and the lying for 3 years that the American people are going to watch this insanity and circus unfold now. They're going to say they've seen this movie before. They're going to say they know how it probably ends, not the way those people want it to end. And they're probably going to say, you know what? We sent people to Washington for bigger issues than this. Where are your plans to keep this country safe and secure? Where are your plans to grow the economy? Where are your plans to create wealth and jobs? Where are your plans? The only plans we now hear is that they want to take away the lifeblood of our economy, oil and gas. They want to get rid of, I know it's kind of bizarre, they want to get rid of the combustion engine, eventually planes, and they eventually want to get rid of cows. But in the meantime, the $94 trillion price tag over 10 years for this fantasy of theirs, it is impossible. Daycare, childcare, pre-K, kindergarten through 12th grade, college free, guaranteed jobs, guaranteed government vacations, guaranteed healthy food, guaranteed retirement. Everything's guaranteed. Every fear that any individual may have in their life, whether you are willing or unwilling to work. I'm like, okay, and who's going to pay for all that? Medicare for all with no options in the from private companies. Well, that would funnel every single American into Obamacare, keep your doctor plan, save money on steroids and human growth hormone without a safety hatch. We'd all be stuck and it wouldn't work out well. I know so many doctors, they don't want their own kids to ever go into medicine. Why? Because they see what the government has imposed on doctors. Dictate, an office visit, $20. Well, maybe that buys you like 30 seconds. The doctor walks in, looks you up and down, and says, oh, you look pretty healthy. You look fine. Okay, $20. See ya. How else is he going to make money? If he took your blood pressure, he's already losing money. If he looked inside your throat, he's losing money. If he checked your ears, he's losing money. If you say, well, I have high blood pressure, I have no more time, $20, your $20 is up because that's all the government will pay me. All right, 800-941-SEAN. I'm going to go through this in a lot more detail. I'm going to explain Hunter Biden's lack of experience and the money that led up to the vice president of the United States leveraging $1 billion taxpayer dollars to fire some unknown Ukrainian prosecutor because that prosecutor was about to interrogate his own son. Hey, but first, our friends at HustlerTurf.com. Hustler Turf Equipment, by far the greatest, the best manufactured. It's named after the B-58 Hustler, family owned, operated. These are great people right in the heartland, 3 generations of great Americans. Now, they introduced their first zero-turn mower in 1964. They've been a leader in lawn equipment ever since. And every single Hustler is engineered, designed, assembled right here in the USA. And that means jobs for hardworking Americans in the heartland. That matters to me. They also give you the highest quality, most reliable mowers. They last forever. Gives you an incredible performance. And you can find and take a look at them yourself if you'd like to at HustlerTurf.com today. That's HustlerTurf.com today. Find the retail store near you.
Immigration, jobs, healthcare. The news you care about is right here. Hannity Watch is on.
All right, as we roll along, Sean Hannity Show. So let's see if my instincts, my gut is right here. So John Roberts, now listen to what Biden is saying. Let's dip into Biden because Biden now wants the president impeached. But Trump believes he's above the law. No, that would be Biden using $1 billion of our tax dollars to fire the prosecutor investigating his son, who's making a fortune from a company in Ukraine. And he had no background at all in this. Listen in.
The Congress does the president does not comply with such a request from the Congress. He continues to obstruct Congress and flout the law. Donald Trump will leave Congress, in my view, no choice but to initiate impeachment. That would be a tragedy, but a tragedy of his own making. I've always believed, and still do, that America is a truly special and unique nation, better than any other nation in history. We have made the experiment of self-government work. We've always been a beacon to other countries around the world. We know who Donald Trump is. It's time to let the world know who we are. Thank you very much.
Hey, Mr. Vice President, tell us about the $1 billion in taxpayer money that you were bragging about. You're not getting $1 billion. I'm leaving here in about 6 hours. And by the way, unless you fire the prosecutor, I'm not giving you that $1 billion.
I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a...
Well, son of a... He got fired, and I used taxpayer money, $1 billion, and I leveraged it to get the guy fired that was investigating my own son. I'm going to go through this at the right after the news at the bottom of the hour in great specificity and detail. And then we'll go over Hunter Biden's actions and behavior and money that he made in another industry, private equity. Again, he had no background or experience in any of it. That's all coming up. 800-941-SEAN, toll-free telephone number. Yes, the news you won't get from the mob. Straight ahead.
The Sean Hannity Show, a thermonuclear MMA assault on fake news. Hannity's on right now.
All right, 25 till the top of the hour, 800-941-SEAN. All right, sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe 30330 now wants Trump impeached. Of course he does. Let me give you the timeline on Ukraine, and then we're going to give you the timeline on Hunter Biden and China along with his dad in that case. Now, if we start, and again, the media will never report this, but this is very damning because let's go back to 2014. In 2014, President Obama appointed his vice president, Biden, to lead the administration's efforts in Ukraine. Only a few months later, in April 2014, same year, Joe Biden's son, Hunter, well, he scored a very lucrative position on the board of this massive Ukrainian gas company that we've been telling you about. It's called Burisma Holdings. Now, a few months later, that's what happened. Again, he was just appointed by Obama. Then Hunter Biden, according to all the reports, we have looked deep. Peter Schweitzer has looked. John Solomon has looked. Nobody can find that Hunter Biden ever had any experience in the energy industry. He was thrown out of school for very serious reasons. Now, he had no experience in the oil and gas sector. He had no experience in the country of Ukraine. It's not like he was a Ukraine expert. But this giant Ukrainian oil and gas company, well, they reportedly shelled out more than $3 million. This was $83,000 a month for him and $83,000 a month for his partner. And that went on till not that long ago, but millions of dollars. Okay. Why? What did Hunter Biden do for them? It's not like he has any experience in this industry, but anyway, that's what the Ukrainian oil and gas company did. It's called Burisma Holdings. So all this money goes to a year later in November of 2015. Joe Biden, this is where it gets interesting. Joe Biden was advised by the New York Times that his son Hunter was under investigation by Ukraine authorities. Then in December of 2015, Joe Biden made his first request to the president, then president of Ukraine, to fire the prosecutor that was leading the corruption investigation into Burisma Holdings, the energy company that was paying his son Hunter Biden, the company that was making his son a millionaire. So right there on the surface, it looks like the classic definition of what we call a play-to-pay scheme. Now let's stay with the timeline. In March of 2016, John Solomon reporting that the vice president knew that this prosecutor was investigating his son. Joe Biden knew that the prosecutor was about to conduct an interview with his son, Hunter Biden. So what did then Vice President Sleepy, Creepy Joe 30330 do? Well, Sleazy Joe actually leveraged, and this is the tape. We'll play it again because this is him bragging about what he did. Now, why would a vice president of the United States of America ever feel a need or a compulsion to ask for the firing of a Ukraine prosecutor? Why would that ever be a situation?
I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a got fired.
Well, son of a got fired. Amazing if you have the power of $1 billion taxpayer dollars to influence the people there. So what we're seeing unfolding before our eyes is a very panicked Democratic Party. This is where the media mob and the Democrats are doing us a favor. Nancy Pelosi, they're meeting at 4 on impeachment. We are ready. Okay, for what? A whistleblower that wasn't a whistleblower? That didn't have firsthand information on anything? A leak from the intelligence community again, 6 ways but Sunday. That's the way Chuck Schumer described them. Anyway, if you care about the law, after Biden's bragging about it on camera, we now know that U.S. law is that all federal officials avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest when conducting any U.S. foreign policy. And clearly this was no concern of then Vice President Joe 30330. And it's apparently not a concern to the media mob either, because the word impeachment to them is like manna from heaven, because they got blown out of the water the first time and they want to go back and they don't want to admit they're wrong. So we'll just say, well, impeach them for that. Forget everything else we lied about for the last 3 years. So they're now doing their best to cover for the declining 2020 so-called front runner. Although he's now down in Iowa, and don't believe his campaign when they say Iowa and New Hampshire don't matter. Oh, they matter. Now they're running wild. They did this now for 3 years. They never apologized. They never revised, extended their remarks. They never changed their behavior. They're just looking for the next thing. Anyway, I guess they didn't see the tape. Maybe they didn't see Biden bragging about getting Ukrainian prosecutor fired. I mean, does that sound a little odd why a vice president would want a prosecutor in Ukraine fired? And it turns out his son is in business with the oil company that prosecutor's investigating. And yeah, they want to interview him too. Now, I don't think it's that they don't care. They just, the only thing that matters now to them is hating and getting Trump. That is their goal. That is they open their eyes, and that's their fixation, their obsession. You know, notice when Peter Doocy asked Biden about his conflicts of interest in Ukraine, he just lost. You're asking the wrong questions, kid.
Mr. Vice President, how many times have you ever spoken to your son about his overseas business dealings?
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings.
And so how do you know?
Let's talk about, here's what I know. I know Trump deserves to be investigated. He is violating every basic norm of a president. You should be asking him the question, why is he on the phone with a foreign leader, trying to intimidate a foreign leader, if that's what happened? That appears what happened. You should be looking at Trump. Trump's doing this because he knows I'll beat him like a drum. and is using the abuse of power and every element of the presidency to try to do something to smear me. Everybody looked at this, and everybody's looked at it and said there's nothing there. Ask the right questions.
Yeah, abuse of power would be you leveraging our money to protect your own son from a prosecutor in Ukraine. That would be a pretty bad abuse of power. So what he said there is, frankly, just an outright lie. Because he's also saying that, well, I never talked to my son about business. But yet, in July, he told the New Yorker that he has, in fact, spoken with his son about his Ukrainian business deals. Whoopsie-daisy. Joe contradicting himself. In a court of law, that would be a big deal. Now, ultimately, this represents a clear pattern of, hypocrisy, projection, a double standard, selective moral outrage, but we kind of all become accustomed to that. And, they accused the president of a quid pro quo with Ukraine while it was actually Vice President Joe Biden and his billion-dollar quid pro quo, using our money to do it. And the left spins in circles over a mere allegation of a promise between President Trump and the president of Ukraine, but barely yawns when Obama's caught on tape. Oh, well, tell Vladimir we'll have more flexibility after the election. That's not a big deal to him either. But now for 2.5+ years, now 3 years really going on. We got Adam Schiff on the phone thinking he's getting dirt on Trump from a Russian. What is the nature of the compromise? A naked picture, Donald Trump, naked picture. Well, did you tell Vladimir? Yeah, but of course, Vladimir see the naked picture of the Trump. He see that. He see the naked pics. Okay, is he not conspiring? They didn't care about the Hillary dirty dossier either. They accused the Trump campaign of working with Russia to spread misinformation. Hillary buys a Russian dossier, New York Times even saying likely Russian disinformation from the start. They've all now tried and attempted, DNC contractors in 2016 trying to persuade the country of Ukraine. John Solomon's reporting Ukraine worked on behalf of Hillary to try and influence our elections. Why didn't anyone in the media care about that? I cared about it. Now, if you look at issue number 2, this was in Peter Schweitzer's book. His Secret Empire book. Now, in 2009, a group is put together. Rosemont Seneca Partners. It's started by Hunter Biden, Devon Archer. He's the other one that got paid in this Ukrainian deal, and Chris Hines. Hunter Biden visits China with Archer to meet with top Chinese officials. Okay, he was on Air Force 2 with his dad. But anyway, that was at a later date. They partner with a group called the Thornton Group. That's in Massachusetts. Now get this. A Massachusetts-based company headed by a guy by the name of James Bulger. Who is James Bulger? Oh, he's the son of the famed mob hitman. That would be James Whitey Bulger. And the meeting occurred only hours before Biden met with the Chinese president. Now, in December of 2013, Hunter Biden is on Air Force 2 with his dad. 10 days later, he finalizes a deal between Biden. It was actually 14 days later. Now, Archer, Biden, the Chinese, this is a deal with the Chinese government worth $1 billion. He has no background that anybody has shown me that had anything to do with private equity. Now, I would think if the Chinese government is going to spend that kind of money and then $1 billion expanded to $1.5 billion, but if they get an unprecedented deal in the Shanghai Free Trade Zone, nobody else has this deal. And Biden's son got it after he flew on Air Force 2 2 weeks after he got back home. Now, so you got Hunter Biden, Devon Archer. They joined the board. And Archer met with Joe Biden in the White House in April of 2014. And that same month, Hunter Biden, Devon Archer joined the board of Burisma. And that's when they were hired as consultants and paid themselves $83,000 apiece. And then days later, on April 21st, 2014, that's when Biden makes an official visit to Ukraine. And he announced that, for the Ukraine energy sector, and he announces that the IMF will be pumping $1 billion into Ukraine. as his son just got a huge multi-million-dollar consulting deal with no background or experience in any of this. In August of 2015, Rosemont Realty, a sister company of Rosemont Seneca, where Hunter was an advisor, well, they announced that Gemini Investments was buying a 75% stake in the company. Gemini is an offshoot of a company called Costco, not the Costcos that you're thinking. A Chinese company tied, to military efforts. The deal includes a $3 billion commitment from the Chinese. Now, where there's that much smoke, there's also fire at some point. And here's something pretty interesting. I mean, Joe Biden's son, I saw in I think it was the Federalist. I forgot where we found this. But, we have the vice president weaving this web of his, telling reporters he didn't know about what his son was doing in Ukraine. But that contradicted, as we pointed out, the things that he said in the New Yorker. And he lied to Peter Doocy over the weekend. And here, I know Trump deserves to be investigated. Yeah, Trump's been investigated every single second of every single day. But now they're going to move forward with this impeachment. So we're going to watch this all throughout the afternoon, see what happens here. But I will tell you, there's no reason for this. It's like the American Spectator whistle blowing in the wind. It's not a whistleblower. That was the other lie. It wasn't firsthand information. That was another lie. There's a series of lies here that just go on that are so extensive. So this scandal now threatens to ensnare Obama, too, in all of this. New York Post had a good point about this today. And Ukraine's foreign minister, Trump didn't pressure us to open an investigation into Biden. Then you have Washington Post. What the media isn't telling you about Trump's decision to delay funding to Ukraine. And, he told his acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, to hold back $400 million in military aid. Oh, boy, that's a big story, right? And this order to withhold military aid a week before his July 25th call with the Ukrainian president is likely to raise questions. And Senator Chris Murphy complained. Well, the Ukrainians decided not to reopen an investigation into Biden's son, and they still got the money. So that fell apart pretty quick. And Biden trying to intimidate the press into not covering it. He's desperate. And then you have the Clinton scandal of, veterans urge Biden to keep stonewalling on the Ukraine questions. And Biden's warning to Hunter shows that he knew his son's Ukrainian deal was fishy. That goes back to the New Yorker once again. All right, 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. We got a lot coming up today. We'll have full, complete coverage. We'll get the legal side of this. Gregg Jarrett and others are going to be joining us at the top of the next hour. Now, this is when this big meeting is supposed to take place with the Democrats. We'll find out hopefully sometime this afternoon, if not tonight on Hannity. Hey, don't forget, fourth quarter is coming, and that means you might need employees for the surge this holiday in hiring. And that's where Express Employment Professionals comes in. 800 locations across North America. They're experts in employment. They're committed to the success of all their clients. And ExpressPros.com, they employ over 500,000 people every year. They leverage more than 35 years experience. They take pride in matching the right job seekers with the right employers, and they never charge a penny for anybody that needs a job. And with the best employment situation since 1969, you might want a better job with better benefits, more pay, and a greater career trajectory for you. Now, to find the nearest office near you, just go to ExpressPros.com, or you can download the Express Jobs app on the iTunes or Google Play Store. You'll find the office near you. Remember, ExpressPros.com. They know jobs, so you need to get to know ExpressPros.com.
Sean Hannity.
What do you think about the Green New Deal as a kind of organizing concept, set of principles?
I like it a lot.
If these two issues are in fact one issue, if there is a relationship between this complaint and this issue, you have not only this illicit conduct by the President of the United States, but you also have the added element of a cover-up.
Everybody looked at this, and everybody's looked at it and said there's nothing there. Ask the right questions.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America.
All right, I'm trying to understand this. Sidney Powell has just pointed out that Judge Drenga in the EDVA just entered a 39-page decision granting an acquittal in the what's Rapicon case, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyway, we've got a lot to get to. 800-941-SEAN is our number. The big news, obviously, Democrats now meeting on possible impeachment, and Pelosi expected to formally announce it. It is a foregone conclusion. They've been searching, and now they got it. Anyway, Gregg Jarrett is with us. Bruce Marks also with us. Gregg Jarrett, of course, author of the now released Witch Hunt, the story of the greatest mass delusion in American political history. Amazon.com, Hannity.com, bookstores everywhere. Bruce Marks, attorney, operates a law firm which practices between Ukraine, Russia, and the U.S. All right, Greg, you could probably make more sense of this than me, but it literally just passed the wire like 30 seconds as I'm coming on here.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now, and this is a case that is arguably comparable to the Flynn case, but, you know, Sean, it just was handed down, and until I read it in its entirety, I really can't make a legal judgment. But Sidney Powell, who is defending Flynn, General Michael Flynn, is making the argument that the case against Flynn ought to be thrown out by the judge because prosecutors, the Mueller special counsel team, including Andrew Weissman and others, hid exculpatory evidence, which under the law they're required to provide, and not just one or two pages. We are talking about volumes and volumes of exculpatory information.
And by the way, the judge in the Flynn case has a history of being very, very angry when these shenanigans and prosecutorial abuse takes place and exculpatory evidence withheld, because he was the one that overturned the whole issue as it relates to Senator Ted Stevens. A little too late for his career, but he did it.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. So this is a judge who is well aware that prosecutors all too often engage in misconduct. They lie. They conceal vital evidence. And that's a grounds for a judge to throw out a case. This judge in the Flynn case has to be concerned that not only were Mueller's lawyers allegedly concealing and hiding evidence, covering it up, but that they actually prosecuted a guy who told the truth. They prosecuted a guy and forced him to plead a lying when in fact he didn't lie at all. And I devote an entire chapter of my book, Chapter 8, to what I call collateral damage, which was Michael Flynn. He was railroaded. He was pressured into making a plea because Mueller wanted him to flip against Donald Trump and say something incriminating, even though Flynn had nothing incriminating to say. This is an unconscionable tactic by prosecutors. I cite other examples in my new book of how they literally put pieces of paper in front of potential witnesses and said, sign this lie or we'll come after you with a vengeance. Now that's suborning perjury, as you and I have talked before. And yet when Mueller does it, it seems to be perfectly okay.
And let's get your take on that, Bruce Marks, and we'll pull up, more of the information. I'm literally printing out the ruling as we speak. But what it's saying here is they talked about the judge says, memorandum of opinion, after a 6-day trial, the defendant in the case convicted, 1 count of conspiracy violation, 1 count acting in the United States as an unregistered agent of a foreign government, the government of Turkey, violation, give the U.S. Code, 18 U.S. Code 951. Defendant moved for a judgment of acquittal at the close of the government's case in chief, renewed the motion at the close of all the evidence, and following the verdict, filed a motion for judgment of acquittal under Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure and they give that procedure. They give the motions for that. The court held a hearing on this in September 12, 2019, at the conclusion of which it took them under advisement for reasons stated below. The evidence was insufficient as a matter of law for the jury to convict on either count because the verdict was against the heavy weight of the evidence and because of other issues pertaining to the conduct of that trial, as discussed below, things you're mentioning, Greg. And a new trial is also warranted in the interest of justice should the court's judgment of acquittal be later vacated or reversed. It's pretty interesting. According to the motions for acquittal are granted, and the motion for a new trial is conditionally granted. How do you take that? Bruce Marks.
I mean, it's a stunning result. I do some criminal work, not a lot. And when you're in court against the federal government, you have a tough road to hoe. It is just so rare that a federal judge does this. On the one hand, I think it gives us faith in the judiciary. On the other, and I say this sadly, it really calls into question a lot of what the government, the prosecutors are doing, particularly when these matters relate to Donald Trump, and perhaps it'll be encouraging as far as, Mr. Flynn is concerned, because I think he's trying to, overturn his guilty plea.
Well, I mean, over time. All right, now to the issue at hand. The Democrats, as we speak, Gregg Jarrett. By the way, doesn't it seem don't you see a lot of similarities to the Russia witch hunt? Because they're now meeting behind closed doors, and Nancy Pelosi is expected to come out and call for a formal impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump. For what reason? Well, it would be a whistleblower report that we now know is secondhand, that the Washington Post is saying did not have a quid pro quo in it. In other words, what was reported initially apparently is wrong. So why they're just grasping at straws? What are they doing here?
Well, they're getting way ahead of themselves. I don't know how you can justify launching formal impeachment proceedings when you don't even know, A, who the whistleblower is, B, what his complaint states, C, the conversation that the president had with the president of Ukraine, D, whether there was any quid pro quo as alleged and now by the Wall Street Journal debunked. I mean, these are all not just salient facts. These are critical, vital facts. This is another example of Democrats and the media, quite frankly, getting way out over their skis and putting a conclusion before the predicate and the facts here. Let's get the facts first. Let's be fair and objective and neutral here before we even launch an investigation. How do we know the investigation is even justified until we know some of the fundamental facts?
I think that's well said, but what was first reported turned out to be wrong. This isn't a whistleblower. This is somebody that had secondhand information. I guess, Bruce, you're an attorney. That would be hearsay. Is that admissible in a court of law?
Generally speaking, Sean, hearsay is not. But what's even worse about this, I mean, there's not only a rush to impeachment. It sounds to me it's a rush to people who want to be on CNN tonight, because Donald Trump said, I think earlier today, that he was going to release the transcript of his conversation with Ukrainian President Zelensky. So why in the world would you have a decision or a vote on this today when the transcript is going to come out tomorrow?
It really does say something, doesn't it? Let me just take a brief detour here, because I'm getting some information. So why Sidney Powell is paying so much attention to this as the attorney for General Flynn, because if you go back, and Greg, you would remember this, when General Flynn at his first sentencing hearing, Judge Sullivan in that case, they told Sullivan that they would have been able to charge General Flynn for a FARA violation, which, by the way, is usually a slap on the wrist stuff. And what's interesting, there was, that's where the whole ridiculousness of treason, this is a 33-year veteran in this country, came from. Then Sullivan retracted at the end of the hearing, but not before the mainstream media. Remember, they picked up that big blow up, and then he came back out and apologized. And anyway, I'm just looking through this as we speak, so I think there's relevancy here. So if they get over their skis, and if there was the president saying that he wants the truth from Ukraine, but there's no quid pro quo, is there any legal issues for the president that would be impeachable, Gregg Jarrett?
It depends on the president's intent. If his intent is purely to ask the Ukrainians to stop the corruption and to investigate, corrupt acts, and that is his intent, my goodness, of course, presidents ask all kinds of things of foreign countries, especially those countries we provide millions and billions of dollars in aid. So, but if his intent is to damage his political opponent, Democrats will certainly argue that is a violation of the law. So it depends on the president's intent. But we don't know his intent until we actually see his words in the conversation. All we have, as you point out appropriately, Sean, is all we have is hearsay from a guy who didn't actually listen in on the conversation.
Well, and again, we're now getting reports there was no quid pro quo. We're getting reports that it was secondhand information. So he wasn't even a whistleblower from the get-go, right?
Well, look at the whistleblower statute. You can't blow the whistle on the President of the United States. That's point number one. Point number two, the relevant statute here says that the complainant, who is a member of the intelligence community, can only complain about conduct or misconduct within the intelligence community, of which the President is not. Under our constitutional form of government, the President is a unitary executive. He is not subject to the rules and conditions of conduct within the various departments. The departments report to him. So the Director of National Intelligence, who will be testifying on Thursday, and that will be an important day, took a look at this complaint and said this is not a legitimate whistleblower complaint because the President is not a member of the intelligence community. That was backed up by the Department of Justice as well as the legal counsel for the DNI. So there is no legal basis to require the intelligence community or the DNI to produce the complaint to Congress. So we'll wait and see what McGuire does on Thursday in that regard.
Right.
I am confident he will explain it exactly as I just did.
Which one of you guys has your little ding on your phone on? Because you got to turn it off. One of you have it on.
Might have been me.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Jarrett, really, after all these years we've spent together, you write books, you got your when's your new book out?
My book is out August 8th, 2 weeks from today. It's available
August?
for pre-order.
You mean that would be October?
October 8th, isn't that what I said?
I thought you said August. Anyway, what did you...
I'm sorry, October 8th. 2 weeks from today, available for pre-order right now.
Stay right there. If you're like me, you have insomnia. I have a hard time falling asleep. And listen, I'm falling asleep faster. I'm staying asleep longer. And it's all because of Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow. And I have all their products, their pillows, their MyPillow mattress topper, the full body pillow. I got the traveling pillow. I got the whole kit and caboodle. But the bottom line is it works. I don't know why, but I've tried everything else, and this is the one that works for me, and I think you're going to see amazing results also. So Mike is always looking for great creative ideas to help his wonderful customers like us, and you know what? He found the Sean Hannity Square. He put it up when you go to MyPillow.com. Now, every day he puts up specials, and every day specials the best deals to save you money. For example, right now today, if you go to MyPillow.com, click on the Sean Hannity Square, you buy one MyPillow, and you get another one free. That's pretty cool. 2 for the price of 1. 60-day unconditional money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty. And if you pre-order Mike's book, What a Life He Has Led, you're going to get the entire shipment for free. All right? So MyPillow.com, Sean Hannity Square, or call 800-919-6090. Mention my name.
Fighting the Trump-hating liberal media one day at a time. This is the Sean Hannity Show.
Check.
Check out the show 24/7. Download it to your iPod. Be a Hannity Insider at Hannity.com.
There is, according to what we're getting on the screen, there's a little bit of what you might call now a breaking tweet from the president, who says that tomorrow they will release a transcript of the Zelensky call. So my question to you is, if you see that transcript and it is more benign than we've been led to believe, do you think that your caucus might stand down a little bit? No. Or do you think that the caucus is at a boil right now? I mean, you're going to find out in the next couple of hours. No, it's not about that.
This is about the Constitution of the United States. And we have many other, shall we say, candidates for impeachable offense in terms of the Constitution of the United States. But this one is the most understandable by the public. And it's really important to know this. There is no requirement there be a quid pro quo in the conversation. If the president brings up he wants them to investigate something, that's of his political opponent. That is self-evident that it is not right. We don't ask foreign governments to help us in our elections. That's what we try to stop with Russia. It's wrong.
All right, so it doesn't matter what happened with Ukraine. We're going to impeach him anyway. And Nancy Pelosi expected to formally announce an impeachment inquiry at 5 p.m. today. Donald J. Trump, we will impeach him. We will get rid of him. We wake up every single morning, our eyes open, before we take that first breath, before we have any conscious thought. Immediately, the psychosis, the rage, the hate, the obsessive compulsive madness sneaks in. And from the moment those eyes open and that first breath is taken, we know that every second, every minute, every hour of every 24-hour day, it will be fixated and focused on Donald J. Trump. Donald Trump lives in their heads, in their minds. They won't talk about his success. They won't talk what high crime and misdemeanor. There is none. Donald Trump, 7 million new jobs. Donald Trump, 2 Supreme Court appointments. Donald Trump, the highest, the greatest, biggest tax cut in American history. Donald J. Trump, yes, cutting more bureaucracy than more presidents in the last 4 decades. Donald Trump found a way to fund the wall. Donald Trump got the trade deal with Mexico, with Japan, with Canada, with Western European allies. NATO is now paying more. Donald J. Trump pushed back the caliphate in Syria, step by step, systematically, town by town, blowing them into smithereens. But do they ever talk about that in the media mob? They do not. The best employment situation since 1969. The Mets won the World Series. We have record low unemployment. African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workforce. And Nancy Pelosi is now going. Oh, and by the way, the president will release the unredacted transcript of the entire call with the Ukrainian leader involving former Vice President Biden. And by the way, I'm told in no uncertain terms, there is not a quid pro quo whatsoever. I have now had numerous sources that know there was no quid pro quo. Did the president talk about Ukraine? Yes. Did he talk about Biden? Yes. Did he talk about Ukrainian corruption? Yes. Well, part of the corruption, how is it that Joe Biden's son made all of this money? How does the media mob not even discuss the idea that a sitting vice president of the United States of America leveraged $1 billion taxpayer dollars to get a prosecutor in Ukraine fired? Why would a vice president ever be involved in a matter like that and arrogantly abuse his authority and his power and his position to get the prosecutor who we now know was investigating his own son, who was making millions of dollars with the company that the prosecutor that Joe Biden made sure to get fired, and in consulting fees, millions of dollars. Does it matter that he had zero experience in the energy field, that he had none? Zero experience in gas, zero experience in oil, zero experience on anything Ukraine. And then you look at, well, Hunter Biden also flew on Air Force Two, and he flew to China with his dad. He's back 14 days, and he's got another big deal. This time it is with the Chinese government for $1 billion, and later that grew to $1.5 billion. For what? Does he have any expertise in China? Private equity? None. So the Chinese government gave it to this guy with no experience. They didn't go to Morgan Stanley. They didn't go to Goldman Sachs. They didn't go to any of these great private equity companies in the United States. No, they went to Hunter Biden, who they met when his father flew him over to China. Anyway, we continue with Gregg Jarrett. By the way, his new book is coming out very shortly. He's destined to be a bestseller. It's called The Witch Hunt, the story of the greatest mass delusion in American political history. By the way, Greg, start taking notes because this might be the follow-up, the second greatest mass delusion in American political history. David Schoen, attorney, is back with us as well. By the way, I think you know a little bit about Whitey Bulger, because did you know Hunter Biden was in business with Whitey Bulger's son in this deal? That ought to tell you a little something there, David Schoen.
Yeah, I've read that. It's really an amazing fact.
What's your take on all this?
Oh, come on. I guess it's just pressure against Pelosi. I think you should play that tape of her day in and day out. It really doesn't matter what was said on the call if he spoke to him. The president has the exclusive power to conduct foreign policy under Article 2. First of all, the idea that people are listening in on his call is an outrage. But secondly, if the president of the United States can't talk to a leader of a foreign country or a diplomat from a foreign country and insist that they stamp out corruption and investigate corruption, then we're in a very sad state. And by the way, this is more of that double standard we've talked about many, many times. I mean, it's really mind-boggling. But it's as if AOC and her crowd finally got through to Pelosi, and they're going to make the same mistake they made with the Mueller thing. I think he shouldn't release the transcript until after they've had this so-called impeachment debate, and then stick it in their face.
And Gregg Jarrett, I mean, at the end of the day, if a vice president abuses his power and authority the way Biden has, obviously, in this case, and then, I mean, the dope bragging about it is probably the greatest tape in the history in terms of Joe Biden's stupidity, and there's a lot of it. I mean, you want to talk about Biden's gaffes, this is probably the best of all.
Well, Biden can't help himself. He loves to brag, and, he implicates himself in all kinds of impropriety all the time whenever he opens his mouth. I agree with David. Article 2 of the Constitution gives the president sweeping powers to conduct foreign affairs. That means you can negotiate with leaders, make demands, offer promises, solicit promises. If we're giving a foreign country aid, we want to make sure that aid is not squandered by corrupt acts. So if the president is asking, we want you to stop the corruption that you are so well known for, and we want you to investigate corrupt acts, whether they involve American public officials or not, the president has every right to do that. The Constitution does not grant the power of review or approval or disapproval to some unelected inferior employee in the intelligence community or other unelected officials in the executive branch. So, once again, as I say before, they're putting the cart before the horse. They don't have the facts, and yet they're calling for impeachment of the President of the United States without even knowing any of the
Well, let me go back, because this is worth playing again, because I want everybody to pay very close attention. Well, now that they're going to release the unredacted conversation with the president and his counterpart in Ukraine, okay, I wouldn't imagine that if the White House had anything to hide or was anything that big of a bombshell, they wouldn't do it. But then she goes on, it doesn't matter if this is it. We'll impeach him for some other reason. We'll just make it up as we go along. Here, listen to this.
There is, according to what we're getting on the screen, there's a little bit of what you might call now a breaking tweet from the president, who says that tomorrow they will release a transcript of the Zelensky call. So my question to you is, if you see that transcript and it is more benign than we've been led to believe, do you think that your caucus might stand down a little bit?
No.
Or do you think that the caucus is at a boil right now? I mean, you're going to find out in the next couple of hours.
No, it's not about that. This is about the Constitution of the United States. And we have many other, shall we say, candidates for impeachable offense in terms of the Constitution of the United States. But this one is the most understandable by the public. And it's really important to know this. There is no requirement there be a quid pro quo in the conversation. If the president brings up he wants them to investigate something, that's of his political opponent. That is self-evident that it is not right. We don't ask foreign governments to help us in our elections. That's what we try to stop with Russia. It's wrong.
Excuse me, that is a lie, too. Because Hillary had a bought and paid for Russian dossier. It's also wrong on the issue of Ukraine, because Ukraine was offering to help Hillary and the DNC was seeking out the information to do it. David Schoen, we've covered that extensively.
Absolutely, but think about the logic of what she just said. And by the way, the specter of people laughing and clapping, we're talking about engaging the impeachment process in the United States Constitution, but put that aside. What she said is, all you have to do is ask a question about someone who's a political opponent, and that's it. That's a violation of our Constitution. So anybody, any crook, can just gain immunity by running for president, and our president isn't allowed to ask the leader of a foreign country to investigate corruption if it has anything to do with that person. That person now has immunity, and by the way, if you do ask it, you've committed an impeachable offense. It's absolutely absurd. This is Alice in Wonderland.
Well, I agree with that, too. But, all right, so now where is this all going to end, do you think? Gregg Jarrett?
Go ahead, Greg. I think Nancy Pelosi will move full steam ahead because she's being pressured by members of her caucus who don't know the first thing about the Constitution. And frankly, given what Pelosi just said, she doesn't know anything about the Constitution either. If the President of the United States knows of a vice president who engaged in an allegedly corrupt act with a foreign nation, it's incumbent upon that president to not only investigate it here in the United States, but ask the foreign government to investigate and produce any relevant evidence they have. If the president didn't do that and knew about it, he would be derelict in his duty. So it seems to me that Nancy Pelosi needs to brush up on constitutional law, and she's the House Speaker. So before she engages in a constitutional act such as impeachment, she ought to know the basis for it.
Well, I don't think that basis matters at this point. How do the American people react to this? Because, we've just been through 3 years of this crap. They don't even care if it's about Ukraine. They just want to impeach him anyway. How do they react to a party that is obsessed with hating one guy? How do they react to their impeachment obsession, their Trump obsession? And will there be a political price to pay for not doing anything to help the American people?
That's right. And how do the people who are, looking and waiting for legislative policy that the president's trying to put forward, how do they feel when they're told by Jerry Nadler or Nancy Pelosi or whoever that, no, the more important thing is finding some basis for impeachment? Because you know what? It doesn't look like we can win the election. Therefore, we've got to, engage impeachment. Sure, some people are, interested. They hear sexy facts or something like that. They want to follow it. But at the end of the day, I think the American people are sick and tired of it. Go head to head on policy. That's what this country is about, not this cheap shot business that's going on. I think Pelosi made a classic mistake here if she's going to be letting herself be steamrolled into pursuing this thing. And remember, at the end of the day, the president says, we haven't heard the transcript yet, but he's asking for an investigation. I mean, how can that possibly be objectionable? Let's get the facts. That's an investigation.
All right. Thank you both. David Schoen, thank you. Gregg Jarrett, thank you. Great perspective from both of you. All right. We got a lot more to get to today. We'll get into more of this. Jeff Lord will join us, Kayleigh McEnany, and we're awaiting Nancy Pelosi will formally announce the impeachment inquiry because they've been meeting for the last hour. Hey, listen, look, you want privacy. We all use phones. We all use electronics, PC, Mac, mobile devices. Now, we all get email. We all send email. We all get text messages. We all send text messages. All right. Would you like to know that everything you send and everything that you receive is private and secure and nobody can hack into it? Well, that's where Norton Secure VPN comes in. It's a virtual private network. They use bank-grade encryption to hide all of your online activity. Now, Norton Secure VPN, that creates a secret tunnel that you can send and receive emails, text messages, and no cyber criminal can see what you are writing and sending and receiving in private. And guess what? Norton Secure is seamless. You install, you log in once, you let it run in the background. Works on your PC, your Mac, your mobile device. Now, by the way, even password protected public Wi-Fi, even Wi-Fi password protected in your home is not safe. It will expose you and your information. That's a problem. That's why you need Norton Secure VPN. And by the way, just go to norton.com/VPN. Now, it's only $3.33 a month for your first year annual enrollment. That's it. Every email, every single one sent and received, every text sent and received, bank grade encryption. Norton.com/VPN. We are awaiting Speaker Pelosi and her impeachment for nobody knows why. Well, whatever. Straight ahead.
The final hour of the Sean Hannity Show is up next. Hang on for Sean's Conservative Solutions.
What do you think about the Green New Deal as a kind of organizing concept, set of principles?
I like it a lot.
If these two issues are in fact one issue, if there was a relationship between this complaint and this issue, you have not only this illicit conduct by the President of the United States, but you also have the added element of a cover-up.
Everybody looked at this, and everybody's looked at it and said there's nothing there. Ask the right questions.
Freedom is back in style. Welcome to the revolution.
Yeah, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song.
Sean Hannity. The new Sean Hannity Show. More behind-the-scenes information on breaking news and more bold, inspired solutions for America. Breaking news now. Here's Sean Hannity.
All right, Nancy Pelosi taking to the podium to announce the impeachment inquiry. Here's what she's saying.
Last Tuesday, we observed the anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution on September 17th. Sadly, on that day, the Intelligence Community Inspector General formally notified the Congress that the administration was forbidding him from turning over a whistleblower complaint on Constitution Day. This is a violation of law. Shortly thereafter, press reports began to break of a phone call by the President of the United States calling upon a foreign power to intervene in his election. This is a breach of his constitutional responsibilities. The facts are these. The Intelligence Community Inspector General, who was appointed by President Trump, determined that the complaint is both of urgent concern and credible. And its disclosure, he went on to say, relates to one of the most significant and important of the Director of National Intelligence's responsibility to the American people. On Thursday, the Inspector General testified before the House Intelligence Committee stating that the acting Director of National Intelligence blocked him from disclosing the whistleblower complaint. This is a violation of law. The law is unequivocal. The DNI staff, it says the DNI, Director of National Intelligence, shall provide Congress the full whistleblower complaint. For more than 25 years, I've served on the Intelligence Committee as a member, as the ranking member, as part of the Gang of Four, even before I was in the leadership. I was there when we created the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. That did not exist before 2004. I was there even earlier in the 90s when we wrote the whistleblower laws and continue to write them to improve them to ensure the security of our intelligence and the safety of our whistleblowers. I know what their purpose was, and we proceeded with balance and caution as we wrote the laws. I can say with authority the Trump administration's actions undermine both our national security and our intelligence and our protections of the whistleblowers, more than both. This Thursday, the acting DNI will appear before the House Intelligence Committee. At that time, he must turn over the whistleblower's full complaint to the committee. He will have to choose whether to break the law or honor his responsibility to the Constitution. On the final day of the Constitutional Convention in 1787, when our Constitution was adopted, Americans gathered on the steps of Independence Hall to await the news of the government our founders had crafted. They asked Benjamin, "What do we have, a republic or a monarchy?" Franklin replied, "A republic if you can keep it." Our responsibility is to keep it. Our republic endures because of the wisdom of our Constitution, enshrined in 3 co-equal branches of government, serving as checks and balances on each other. The actions taken to date by the President have seriously violated the Constitution, especially when the President says, Article 2 says I can do whatever I want. For the past several months, we have been investigating in our committees and litigating in the courts, so the House can gather all the relevant facts and consider whether to exercise its full Article 1 powers, including a constitutional power of the utmost gravity, approval of articles of impeachment. And this week, the President has admitted to asking the President of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the President's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections. Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry. I'm directing our 6 committees to proceed with their investigations under that umbrella of impeachment inquiry. The President must be held accountable. No one is above the law. Getting back to our founders, in the darkest days of the American Revolution, Thomas Paine wrote, "The times have found us. The times found them to fight for and establish our democracy. The times have found us today, not to place ourselves in the same category of greatness as our founders, but to place us in the urgency of protecting and defending our Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic." In the words of Ben Franklin, to keep our republic. I thank our Chairman Nadler, Chairman Nadler of Judiciary, Chairman Schiff of Intelligence, Chairman Engel of Foreign Affairs, Chairman Cummings of Oversight, and Chairman Cummings I've been in touch with constantly. He's a master of so much, but including inspectors general and whistleblowers. Congresswoman Richie Neal of the Ways and Means Committee, Congresswoman Maxine Waters of the Foreign Financial Services Committee. And I commend all of our members, our colleagues, for their thoughtful approach to all of this, for their careful statements. God bless them, and God bless America. Thank you all.
Madam Speaker, never before has Trump been convicted by the Senate.
One of the this is just mark this moment, because what we've now done in Washington, what is now unfolding, is a witch hunt of unprecedented proportions. They don't even know a single thing about this particular conversation, except what one so-called whistleblower had to say that wasn't a whistleblower. I mean, that in and of itself is stunning. They don't even know, they're making claims this is an impeachable offense. What is the high crime and misdemeanor? What do they even know? They don't know a thing. But as we played in the last segment, Nancy Pelosi said, well, if it comes out and it's not what we want, we'll just find another reason to impeach. Here's what
there is, according to what we're getting on the screen, there's a little bit of what you might call now a breaking tweet from the president, who says that tomorrow they will release a transcript of the Zelensky call. Yeah. So my question to you is, if you see that transcript and it is more benign than we've been led to believe, do you think that your caucus might stand down a little bit?
No.
Or do you think that the caucus is at a boil right now? I mean, you're going to find out in the next couple of hours.
No, it's not about that. This is about the Constitution of the United States. And we have many other, shall we say, candidates for impeachable offense in terms of the Constitution of the United States. But this one is the most understandable by the public. And it's really important to know this. There is no requirement there be a quid pro quo in the conversation.
Well.
If the president brings up he wants them to investigate something, that's of his political opponent. That is self-evident that it is not right. We don't ask foreign governments to help us.
Excuse me. That is a lie, too. Because it was Barack Obama and his political team that literally actively sought to unseat Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, our closest ally in the Middle East. What does it mean when Obama says, tell Vladimir I'll have more flexibility after the election? What is that? What is, if at the end of the day they cared so much about Russian interference, well then why is it when we got information, which is credible, the Ukrainians wanted to give us information that they were solicited to help Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. Nobody was interested because they couldn't bludgeon Trump with that. Or if, we're talking about dirt and foreign influence in our election system, how is it that none of these people cared at all about a bought and paid for Russian dossier, paid for by Hillary Clinton, unverified, uncorroborated, all of it, and then used as a backdoor, as a predicate to lie and even after warnings, premeditated fraud on a FISA court for the purpose of taking away one American's constitutional rights and then having a backdoor into spying on all things Trump campaign, Trump transition, and then the Trump presidency. And that was one of numerous ways that they were spying on then candidate, then transition team, and then President Trump. We know what happened with the outsourcing of intelligence gathering to circumvent American laws by getting our allies, Italy, Great Britain, and Australia, and others to do the spying that would otherwise be illegal here. David Schoen, your reaction, attorney.
What I think we've seen, if it wasn't the case before, is Nancy Pelosi has forfeited any role in history ever that she could have had at being a respected leader. I've been engaged in constitutional litigation for 35 years. The very specter of her invoking the founding fathers who would turn over in their grave if they heard what she just said is a disgrace. She said two things now about what's impeachable, about what the president did. She said in the earlier tape that if he asked a question or suggested an investigation about someone who happens to be a political opponent, that speaks for itself. That's impeachable. She just said in her speech now announcing the impeachment inquiry that because his conversation would benefit him politically, it's impeachable. Well, if you follow that through, then if he makes a deal with China, everybody thinks that's a great thing. He benefited himself politically. He should be impeached for making that deal. If he shuts down Iran, he should be impeached. It's absolutely absurd. It's one of the greatest acts of desperation I've seen. And when she announces the chairman heads there, it's like Murderer's Row. She announces the chairman heads and compliments them for their investigation. Jerry Nadler hired two people as so-called investigators who wrote articles about why the president engaged in obstruction of justice before the Mueller investigation happened. They were dead wrong as a matter of fact and law. They had their minds made up, and the American taxpayers are paying for them now to be investigators. This is horrific.
Well, it's horrific, but it's happening. And I think what we are going to see here is that the American people are going to see that this is just another obsessive, compulsive hatred of Donald Trump move on their part. And now it's official. And I'm going to tell you the other thing politically you have to pay attention to here is that Nancy Pelosi, it has been pressured. I have been saying she is speaker in name only. That's all she is. She's not the speaker. This is the new radical extreme socialist democratic party. The base of this party now has forced her hand. And that means every single Democrat in every district that Trump won is now likely in jeopardy of losing. They don't care. They'll go on a suicide mission and throw everybody else overboard if that's what it takes to get Donald Trump. I'll give you the last word. We got to take a break.
You're 100% right. It's not coincidental that just the day before, AOC went after Pelosi again. This is a Congress now on the Democratic side run by AOC, Tlaib, Omar, Presley, and that crowd, and the others are all intimidated by him. It's shocking.
It's who they are. All right. Thank you, David Schoen. Hey, listen, last week, summer inventory clearance, our friends at Chamonix. And right now, when you order the brand new Genucel jawline treatment, well, you get classic Genucels to get rid of bags and puffiness under your eyes absolutely free. And you'll also get their free legendary collagen builder, and you'll get the Genucel immediate effects. That's 3 free gifts. Now, Beverly, Huntsville, Alabama. Oh, my God, I love this product. I saw a difference almost immediately. Would recommend to everyone if they have a problem with their jawline. All Genucel products are amazing. Now, many have tried to duplicate. Nobody has been successful. They sell direct to you at Chamonix. They have for all of these decades. Now, you guaranteed results or your money back. You'll see results in 12 hours or less. That's their promise, or no questions asked, no payment at all. 800-SKIN-509, Genucel.com. You get your 3 free gifts. This is it. The last few days, their summer clearance inventory sale. 800-SKIN-509, Genucel.com.
You know, 2020 is just around the corner. And we have everything you need to stay informed. Hannity Watch is here.
All right, warm weather is meant for spending as much time with your family as possible, but when you constantly have to excuse yourself, go outside, you smoke, think about all the meaningful memories you're missing. It used to be me until I discovered Juul. Instead of being gone for a 10-minute smoke break, guess what? You're back in a flash, few puffs of Juul, and that's why I try to share it with every one of my family and friends that still smoke. Now, Juul isn't like other messy, complicated vaporizers that you see, and all you do is you insert the Juul pod, and boom, ready to go for the rest of the day, and you don't have to worry about the way your hands, your clothes, your breath smells. 100% I recommend Juul, and if you're one of the 34 million adults who still smoke, know there is a satisfying alternative to cigarettes. To discover the smoking alternative unlike any you've ever tried, just go to Juul.com/Switch America. That's JUUL.com/Switch America. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson Ricky LeBlanc, admitted in Massachusetts only. Sokolov Law LLC, Chestnut Hill, Mass. Paul J. Morgan, Winter Park, Florida. Greg Hobby, New Jersey. Michael Bro Gonzalez, admitted Louisiana. While this firm maintains joint responsibility, most cases of this type are referred to other attorneys for principal responsibility. Mesothelioma. If you know what mesothelioma is, you or someone you love has likely been affected by this devastating cancer. You may be entitled to compensation. Call Sokolov Law today. 1-800-808-6100. The only known cause of mesothelioma is asbestos exposure. Thousands of U.S. veterans and trade workers are at risk for the disease. Nearly $30 billion in court-ordered trust has been set aside to pay money to asbestos victims. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, call now. You may be able to receive compensation without ever going to court or filing a lawsuit. Call for a free legal consultation at 1-800-808-6100. That's 1-800-808-6100. 1-800-808-6100.
When injuries happen on the job, employers' concerns are employees' medical treatment and reducing costs. CompPros understands workman's comp regulations clearly, handles all insurances, and have the only board-certified occupational physician, Dr. David McKinney.
CompPros reduces common mistakes in workers' comp claims, saving thousands for employers.
Call California Occupational Medical Professionals.
When it's workers' comp, call or visit CA CompPros.
Fast, cost-saving claims.
The Notre Dame Preschool is enrolling new students today. The preschool providing before and after school daycare with nurturing qualified teachers. All denominations are welcome at Notre Dame, where children are prepared for academic excellence. The Notre Dame Preschool, meeting the flexibility needs of local families with a spacious facility at 500 Orient Street. The Notre Dame Experience, a distinguished history, a bright future. Feel free to stop by their preschool facility or give them a call, 487-7330. That's 487-7330.
If you're like me,
you remember exactly where you were when you knew you'd lost everything. I watched my office burn on television, my home, my parents' home, your homes. Nearly everything we built in our community taken from us because of reckless PG&E corporate decisions. But getting past it means more than just getting even. It means getting together. Our claims are a message, a movement. Our voices must be heard. We can never allow this to happen to another community. Together, we can be heard. Join me, my family, my neighbors, and our entire community who suffered these losses and make our last stand. The judge ordered a deadline of October 21st, so this is our last chance. Stand up and fight back so no other community has to experience what we have.
Contact Attorney Joe Early at 530-413-8151 or visit pgelawsuit.com. Joseph Early and the Law Office of Joseph Early is responsible for the content of this advertisement.
Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Silver Dollar Fairgrounds Chico Pavilion Building. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Silver Dollar Fairgrounds Chico. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Silver Dollar Fairgrounds Chico. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Silver Dollar Fairgrounds Chico. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Silver Dollar Fairgrounds Chico. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Silver Dollar Fairgrounds Chico. Friday noon to 7. Saturday 10 to 7. Sunday 10 to 6. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Silver Dollar Fairgrounds Chico. Call 888-SPA-SALE or go to spapoolandbbqshow.com.
All right, as we roll along, all right, official impeachment inquiry. It doesn't mean what you think. I'm telling you right now, this is all a political game. You know, when you really think of, I know you've got your Trump haters out there, and what's happened now to the Democratic Party is they are now so dominated by the radical left. You know, this is all that they can see. It is like a tunnel vision. There's no high crime. There's no misdemeanor. There is nothing untoward about a president of the United States. Now, constitutionally, if Nancy Pelosi ever really cared about the Constitution, she would know that the president is the commander-in-chief. And knowing how upset everybody was about election interference, well, when we reported with John Solomon, investigative reporter in The Hill, we went into a deep dive into this on this show yesterday, TV last night. We'll do it again tonight. Pointed out that, yeah, there was a solicitation of Democratic DNC people to Ukraine in their outreach, trying to dig up dirt on Paul Manafort and the Trump campaign. Now, hang on a second. Is that the very same thing? But the good news in all of this is what they have done as it relates to sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe 30330, because now Joe Biden will be scrutinized. And now Joe Biden will have to answer for his abuse of power, and that is using taxpayer dollars to literally $1 billion and bragging about it later, that he demanded that a prosecutor in Ukraine be fired or they're not getting the $1 billion. Does that not sound like a bigger abuse of power? And if the president's on the phone with the new president of Ukraine, whose entire platform was cleaning up all the corruption in Ukraine, and that included their efforts to help Hillary Clinton, as admitted with evidence that they have offered us that we haven't taken them up on yet, and if the president is talking to him about that corruption, well, then it would certainly naturally dovetail into what is clearly something else, which is, that is that Joe Biden, and his son, he'd never had any experience in gas, energy, oil, and the fact that he was hired means that, well, it looks like they were trying to buy influence of Joe Biden. Now that has to be examined thoroughly. And then when we go to the China issue, he had no background or experience in private equity either. That turned out to be a $1 billion boom for the Bidens. And then later $1.5 billion. No experience. We'll continue.
Hannity uncovers the real truth about the politics of D.C. He's your watchdog on Big Brother every day. Hannity is on right now.
And this week, the president has admitted to asking the president of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the president's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections. Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry. I'm directing our 6 committees to proceed with their investigations under that umbrella of impeachment inquiry. The president must be held accountable. No one is above the law.
What is going on is that the president has committed several impeachable offenses. He himself, what he has admitted to is already impeachable regardless of future developments. What he has already admitted to is an impeachable offense, among others. I anticipate, and I believe there'll be discussion as to whether when we draft or when the judiciary examines the question on filing potential articles of impeachment, what those articles will include could articulate several different offenses, including emoluments and asking foreign assistance. So it is possible that articles could be encompassing, but with that consideration, I defer those to the chairman of the Judiciary Committee as well as some of the other investigatory committees.
Why do you think it would be a bigger scandal, as you said, that if Congress were not to move forward versus what the president has done? You said it would be a bigger scandal versus than what the president does. Why did you say that?
Well, I think we have to hold this president accountable, and we have to protect our democracy, and I believe that we'll be doing so right now.
There is, according to what we're getting on the screen, there's a little bit of what you might call now a breaking tweet from the president, who says that tomorrow they will release a transcript of the Zelensky call. Yeah. So my question to you is, if you see that transcript and it is more benign than we've been led to believe, do you think that your caucus might stand down a little bit? No. Or do you think that the caucus is at a boil right now? I mean, you're going to find out in the next couple of hours.
No, it's not about that. This is about the Constitution of the United States. And we have many other, shall we say, candidates for impeachable offense in terms of the Constitution of the United States. But this one is the most understandable by the public. And it's really important to know this. There is no requirement there be a quid pro quo in the conversation. If the president brings up he wants them to investigate something, that's of his political opponent. That is self-evident that it is not right. We don't ask foreign governments to help us in our elections. That's what we try to stop with Russia. It's wrong.
Yeah, but they never cared about the Russia side at all now, did they? Or the Russian dossier, or the fact that Ukraine, wanted to give us evidence because they were trying to help Hillary Clinton in the last presidential election. No, she didn't care about that either. There's one thing as I listen to this again that really stands out in my mind on this. Really all that happened here, now, it went from an impeachment probe. That's all this has been from the get-go. This is not new news here. See, really, it's just a change in title because, our formal impeachment inquiry. Well, that's what it's been and remains. It's been that way all along. She thinks she's clever. They're going to get the bounce in the news cycle by their closest allies, biggest donors, and an extension of their press office. That would be the mob and the media. But if she really wanted a real impeachment inquiry, well, you'd actually have to call a formal House vote with a roll call, and that would mean that every member of her caucus would have to go on the record, and they'd have to take a position. And she doesn't want that desperately because she's got a good part of her caucus, and I'm going to scroll these names tonight on Hannity, of Democrats in the House that come from these red districts. In other words, districts that Donald Trump won. They are hanging in the balance as she now must give in to the majority radical wing of her party. And that's why I said this is all because she's not in charge as Speaker in the House. She is Speaker in name only. The real Speaker in the House would be the Squad, led by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I'll tell you the other side of this, and this might take a while for it to penetrate. But what they're doing here with this rage and psychosis and hate, they are now dragging this country into a fight. And if there's any abuse of power that is going on before our eyes, it would be the Democrats abusing their power. And that is, look, the president just tweeted presidential harassment. They never saw the transcript of the call. Now, it's funny, this comes 3 hours after Donald Trump had already said that he will release the transcript, the unredacted transcript of the conversation that he had with the Ukrainian president. He's going to release the whole thing. And notice that she said, well, it doesn't have to be a quid pro quo. Yeah, because they now know that that didn't happen. Their original report was not true. Now, we've got to also look into something that is very serious, and that is, okay, who now was listening in on the conversations of the President of the United States of America? Because I'd like to know. If you're going to drag the country into a fight, is this another example of they'll get you 6 ways and Sunday, as Chuck Schumer said, and they're going to drag the country into a fight over what? Donald Trump saying, yeah, we want you to clean up the mess in Ukraine. You ran on a platform of ending corruption in Ukraine. And yeah, if that means that, things happen with our country, we want to know the truth about what happened here. Because, we do have a constitution with separation of powers. And I can't think of, and maybe others can, I can't, a conversation with the President of the United States, the Commander in Chief, and any other world leader. We had it with, we had transcripts of the President with the Australian Prime Minister, this leader, that leader. When is this now become the new standard? Tell Vladimir I'll have more flexibility after the election. And, this dramatic, formal impeachment inquiry. Well, it's always been an impeachment probe. You just change the title. You get a news cycle out of it. It's now formal. Based on what? You don't even have the transcript. No president constitutionally, I don't think, look, in my case, I don't even think that they could win this in the Supreme Court, that a president would have to start revealing private conversations with world leaders, because then there's not going to be a single world leader that'll ever want to talk to a president of the United States again, honestly and truthfully, because they're going to know that one day, whatever they say, well, that might then, be leaked to the press or left open somewhere. So now we're now moving from an impeachment probe that was never ending from the day Trump won to a formal impeachment inquiry. But we're not going to have the full House of Representatives, which, by the way, is needed. We're not going to have these people vote because it's a tough vote for them. And because those red state Democrats in Trump districts, yeah, they're likely going to lose the second they go on the record for this. So watch what happens here. Formal impeachment inquiry. It's been an impeachment probe from day one. What do you think the Mueller thing was all about? That was supposed to be their roadmap to impeachment. Now they're just jumping the gun and they're racing to impeachment without any facts. Now I'm going to tell you, the American people are smart. The American people also know politics at a disgusting gutter level when they see it. And that's what's unfolding right now in this country. And they have a right to be, and every American has a right to be and should be outraged by this new radicalism that has emerged and taken over the heart and soul of what was a more reasonable party back in the day. There are no moderate Democrats anymore. And let me add the most important part of this. Everything you're now seeing is about protecting Joe Biden. And I'll take it a step further. And Barack Obama. Because there's no way that the guy, remember, there's no counterintelligence investigation unless it starts with the President of the United States. That would mean that Operation Crossfire Hurricane started in the Oval Office of Barack Obama. Now we have Joe Biden. We know Hunter Biden got more than $3 million plus to his private investment firm from the United States, literally, and a Ukrainian gas company that they partnered with. Immediately, just 3 months after Vice President Joe Biden was appointed to oversee relations with Ukraine. And then Joe Biden was advised by the New York Times that his son was under investigation. And his office acknowledged they were aware of the investigation by Ukraine authorities, but that it was Hunter Biden's to deal with, not the vice president. And in December 2015, Biden makes his first request of the then president of Ukraine to fire the prosecutor leading the investigation into this company, Burisma Holdings, that in fact was paying all this money to a guy that had no background experience in Ukraine, oil, gas, or energy in any way, shape, manner, or form. And in March of 2016, knowing that this investigator was investigating his son and that his son was about to be interviewed in conjunction with the investigation, it's a fact that Biden then leveraged $1 billion taxpayer dollars. We're going to get lectured about abuse of power and corruption and the Constitution by this insane radical crowd that wakes up every day in a fit of rage and hatred that has never been able to accept their election loss in 2016. Now, I'm going to tell you something. You might think, oh, this sounds bad. It doesn't. There's nothing bad here. There will be no quid pro quo. They can go and impeach all they want. And I want them all on the record. Nancy Pelosi, up or down, call the roll. Have an up or down vote. Let every one of your members go on record that they support this rush to judgment, this lack of due process, this obsessive, compulsive, psychotic rage and hatred towards a president that you don't like, that has shown nothing but success, the opposite of what we had with 8 years of Biden-Obama. And in the process, then we'll also get to deal with Biden's corruption and the other relationships, Hillary's Russian dirty dossier, and, Obama's influence in Israel and try to influence that election, and the Ukraine influence to try to help Hillary in 2016, and Biden's son capitalizing with no experience in multi-million and billion-dollar deals, even with the country of China. Let's get a quick call in here. And by the way, the foreign minister said, no, the president never did any such thing. Michelle, North Carolina. What's up, Michelle? How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Sean. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to say, I think there's 4 great takeaways from Nancy Pelosi's speech. She admitted that we are a republic. We are not a democracy. She said that's number 1. Number 2 is she stated that we must protect the Constitution at all costs, which is absolutely true. Number 3, she said there should be nobody above the law. Amen to that. And 4th, she said if anybody did anything with a foreign power and to get themselves elected, they should be removed immediately. I think every one of those talking points and every one of those sound bites might come in very handy in the next 14 months.
I think that's really well said. By the way, I'm pretty critical of the Republican Party because they're usually weak and ineffective and don't know how to fight. Oh, this is pretty great. Now the RNC has called on Biden to release his transcripts. I think that's fair play. Let's release the transcripts. Ronna McDaniel, following, I think I almost said Ronald McDonald. Sorry, Ronna. She's a lovely woman. In response to Biden's baseless call for impeachment. First, it was the Russia hoax. Now it's the Ukraine hoax. Once again, Biden has shown that he's just as extreme as every other 2020 radical socialist Democrat, desperate to bring Donald Trump down. And instead of backing a baseless impeachment effort, Biden should be answering for the only scandal that really exists. And that is why a corrupt Ukrainian company paid his son, all of this money to lobby the Obama-Biden administration, and why Biden leveraged taxpayer dollars and threatened the Ukrainians that if they didn't fire the prosecutor in 6 hours, they ain't getting the money. Now that the president has authorized the release of the transcript with President Zelensky of Ukraine, we call on Joe Biden to release the transcripts of his calls as vice president with Ukrainian Chinese leaders while his son was conducting shady business deals in those countries. I echo that. I think it's a great idea. All right, in this day and age, cyber criminals everywhere. It's just the reality of the life that we live, and you got to be careful. Now, what the latest thing that they're doing is they're trying to get these identity thieves, even the Social Security numbers of kids. Why? Because then they have a clean slate. They can take out lines of credit, get out credit cards, because kids don't have credit reports, so the account seems clean. I mean, they'll rob your bank account, your retirement account blind. They'll take out credit cards and loans in your name. They'll steal your tax refund. And that's why you need LifeLock.com, because they'll see the threats that you'll miss on your own. And if you have a problem, they have a team of restoration specialists to fix it. Right now, their best price ever, 30% off when you go to LifeLock.com and use the promo code Hannity. The best deal ever. Or call 1-800-LifeLock and mention my last name. 30% off. LifeLock.com, 1-800-LifeLock. This offer expires soon. The best deal they've ever given.
Sean Hannity.
All right, we have full coverage of all of this on Hannity tonight, 9 Eastern, Fox News, with the best lineup and news you won't get from the mob. See you then.
RCA Victor Television. One more day to Labor Day weekend, the traditional occasion for tasty outdoor barbecues or picnics.
enemies who are between me and
This is Times Square, 42nd Street.
Transfer is available to 1,